first one here. All right, we'll talk about this group first. Basidiomycetes. First of all, that word basidio means club. Club. So these are the club fungi. It's called that because they have these structures called basidia. And these are club-shaped reproductive structures found on the gills. Now, what are the gills? Do fungi have gills like fish? We're talking about a different kind of gills. Where a mushroom is an example of one of these. Where on a mushroom are the spores? Now, mushroom's got a cap, and then up the top it's got that umbrella-like thing on top, what we call the cap. Underneath the cap, you ever looked underneath the cap of a mushroom? What does it look like? It looks like little folds of like tissue paper. Those are the gills. On those gills are little club-shaped structures. Basidia. Those club-shaped basidia are the structures that make the spores. But they're on those little gills underneath the cap of the mushroom. Here's some examples of these things, and we'll look at pictures. Mushrooms, that we're all familiar with, obviously. Rusts. And we're not talking about like the rust that's on metal. That's what? What is the rust on metal? That's a chemical. That's iron what? Iron oxide. That's not what we're talking about. This is called rust because it sort of looks like that. But it grows where? Where do rust grow? They're plant pathogens. They grow on certain plants. They're parasites on certain plants. Smuts. Now this one's gross. Anybody ever picked corn? I got a picture of this. Nobody's ever picked corn? You ever touched the smut on the corn?
Is it like gooey stuff?
Yes. It looks like big black tumors growing on the ears of corn. And if you grab one of those with your hand and you're picking corn, you get this slimy, black, spore-filled, mucus-like stuff all over you. Okay? So it's another plant parasite. Smuts are. Now, probably everybody in here has seen a puffball. Puffballs, big round things, sort of like mushrooms. And if you jump on one of them, what happens? This cloud shoots out. What's the cloud? Spores. If the puffball could think, you're doing what it wants you to do, right? By jumping on it, what have you just done for it? You've dispersed its spores. You sent its spores out into the air so they can go where? Everywhere. It wants something to do that for it. That's why it's made that way. It wants something to jump on it. Just grow it out in your yard. I had one growing in my yard just the other day. It's just like a round mushroom. That's what it looks like. We don't see them as much because people tend to cut the grass real often. And you cut them down before they grow. No. They grow really fast. Just watch the ground. You'll see. I've got a picture. I'll show you one. All right, we already talked about the mycelium. The mycelium, remember, is the main part of the fungus, the body. In a basidiomycete, it's called the basidiocarp. Carp first of the body. So this is the body of a club fungus, basidiocarp. Their main role in nature is they're decomposers, and hence nutrient recyclers, mineral recyclers. When they break down a dead thing, what happens to the minerals that were in that dead thing? Back to the soil. That's a good thing. It's like fertilizing the soil. They reproduce sexually, basically through the same process we just talked about. Two haploid hyphae grow together. Get a little plasmogamy going on. Plasmogamy creates what? After the cytoplasm's fused, what do we got? We have one cell with two nuclei, and we call that dikaryotic or heterokaryotic. Those dikaryotic cells, then the nuclei fuse together. We get a diploid nucleus. That diploid nucleus will then undergo meiosis, create haploid what? In a fungus, what does meiosis create? Haploid spores. That's basidiomycete sexual reproductive cycle. In all fungi, it works basically the same way. That is a puffball, or actually that's several puffballs. They can be really big. They can be like beach ball size. But that's rare. Most of them that I've seen are about this size around here. It's maybe softball size. All right, I don't know how well you guys can see it, but this is corn smut right there. It looks like big blackish blue, almost so black they're blue tumors growing on the ear of corn. Really, really gross stuff. All right, there's that reproductive cycle we just saw. Nothing new there. There's the mushrooms. Also basidiomycetes. And we'll go to our next group, which will probably be our last one for today, called ascomycetes. Asco means sac. So these are the sac fungi. They're called that because their spores form in these sac-like structures. So their spore-making organs, their reproductive structures, are called asci or an ascus. Remember, any word that ends in US in biology is usually what? If it's a US word, what does that mean about it? It means it's singular. If it ends in I, that means plural. So ascus is one, asci is many. All right, here's some examples, and you've heard of a lot of these. Truffles. Anybody ever eaten a truffle? Not the candy. No, this is not a chocolate truffle. That's not what we're talking about. These are like round, gooey mushrooms that grow under the ground. Very popular in Europe. Rich people tend to eat them. It's sort of like caviar. It's one of those things rich people tend to eat. It's several $100s per ounce, I think. I may be quoting the price wrong. How do they find them? To harvest them. They grow under the ground. They train pigs to smell them out. The pigs can go around and smell them from above the ground. They dig them up, and they sell them for hundreds of dollars per ounce, which they don't look very appealing. I've got a picture I'll show you in a minute.
Are they just really rare?
They're pretty rare, yeah. Penicillium you should recognize. Penicillium is the fungus that makes penicillin. Yeast, obviously. The yeast that are used to make beer and wine, and also bread. These two things, Candida and Saccharomyces, these are scientific names for two different kinds of yeast. This one, Candida albicans, that's the one that causes like yeast infections. This one, Saccharomyces, what's saccharose sound an awful lot like? Sugar. These are the ones that that ferment sugar and are used to make like alcoholic beverages. Sordaria is a sac fungus we're going to use in a lab here in a few weeks. And that's why I put its specific name up here. We'll see it in the lab. Mycorrhiza, or something else you should be familiar with. Again, myco means fungus. Anybody know what rhiza means? It means root. So this word literally means fungus root. Where do you think these things grow? On the roots of plants. Good thing or bad thing for the plant? Good thing. It's a mutualistic thing. Because when they grow all over the roots. So that's sort of like doing what to the roots if you got something growing all over you? It's sort of like making them bigger. Making them have more what? Surface area. Making them better able to absorb stuff from the ground like water and nutrients. So these mycorrhiza, a good symbiotic relationship, a mutualistic relationship, they help the tree absorb more nutrients because they grow in its roots. What do they get in return? Sugar. The plant makes sugar, ships it down through the phloem to the fungus. They feed the fungus. The fungus helps the plant get water and nutrients from the ground. It's a good deal for both. A lichen is another example. What's a lichen? Everybody in here has seen and knows about lichens. You may not know the word. Let me show you a picture. They may not have a picture. Yeah, there's a picture. We've all seen those, right? Growing on the side of a tree. Those are lichens. You don't like lichens, huh? These lichens are also a symbiotic relationship. The body, the outside part that we see is mostly made of fungus. But what color are lichens typically? Greenish or bluish. What's growing inside the fungus? Some kind of algae or cyanobacteria, which means it can do what? It can do photosynthesis. So this is part fungus, part photosynthetic organism. It's two things living together. It's a mutualistic kind of thing. What does the fungus give to the cyanobacteria or the algae that it needs? No, the fungus. What does the fungus got to offer? It makes the body. It makes the house. It also gets on the side of a tree where there's going to be a lot of what? A lot of light. And in return, the little algae or cyanobacteria living inside can give what to the fungus? Sugar. Photosynthesis. So that's it. It's a good deal for both. That's more mutualism. All right, last couple of things here. We got a few pictures I want to show you. That's a truffle. It's actually several truffles. Looks like it's on top of a bed of rice. It doesn't really look very appetizing to me. Does it look to you? Looks kind of like a pile of dog poop. All right, this is a picture of yeasts. Yeasts are microscopic, single-celled organisms. So each one of these little ball-like structures is a separate yeast. These are individual one-celled organisms. But they're in this group, Ascomycetes. And let's see, the last couple of things I'll mention here. Remember that word ascus means sac. Sac fungi. The ascus is the reproductive structure. The ascocarp is their mycelium or their body. And their spores, their sexually produced spores at least, are called ascospores because they're made in a sac. These also make a lot of asexual spores. And conidia is the word we're going to use to refer to their asexual spores. And I think that's probably a good stopping point. Let's stop there. Turn this thing off.